And now to the Biden administration and the maker of a widely used abortion pill. They've asked the Supreme Court to intervene in the legal battle over access to this drug. They're asking the court to preserve access to mifepristone without the restrictions imposed by the lower court rulings. This, as the FDA and the drug maker warn that these restrictions could cause, quote, chaos because the existing doses of this pill would now have outdated labels that don't currently meet approval standards. So as that's happening, we take a look at Florida as well, where Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has signed into law a new 6-week abortion ban passed yesterday by the state's GOP legislature, signed into law by him. So joining us now to help put this all into context, ABC News senior national policy reporter Ann Flaherty and ABC News senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer. Our thanks to both of you for being with us. And Devin, let's start with you. What more do we know about this emergency request, and could the Supreme Court intervene as they have been asked to?
They certainly could, Kana, but we do know at this hour that in 12 hours, a wave of restrictions against the most widely used abortion drug in this country are set to go in effect. It would be a dramatic change in access to abortion in this country, including in states where it's legal. You'll remember that this case out of the state of Texas and affirmed last week by the Fifth Circuit imposes basically a rollback of FDA guidelines to the year 2000. Well, what does that mean? It means this drug can only be used up to 7 weeks instead of 10 weeks of pregnancy. That means that women would have to get the drug from their doctors, in fact, make 3 in-person visits to be able to use it. They wouldn't be able to get it through the mail or from a telehealth prescription, and they would not be able to use generic versions of the drug, which is across the board, across the country right now. So pretty significant change. As you said, the government says this would cause chaos, regulatory uncertainty for pharmaceutical companies, families, states, millions of women in this country, and they asked the Supreme Court, along with the drug company, to put all of that on hold, to freeze the status quo in place while these legal battles continue to play out at all levels of the court. And we know it's now in the Supreme Court's hands. The last I checked, Kana, the Supreme Court met for their private conference today. Who knows if it was discussed amongst the 9 around that table. They are on no timeline to act, but they could also act at any time. Again, those restrictions will take effect at 1 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday morning if the Supreme Court does not act in some way.
Wow, so if they're not on a timeline, millions of Americans could be with 12 hours to go, as you said. And so, Devin, how are the plaintiffs now reacting?
Now, the plaintiffs in this case, the groups of anti-abortion rights, doctors and nurses and individuals who are challenging the FDA approval of this drug, they say in response to all of this that the FDA should have to answer for the damage it has done to the rule of law and to women. That has been their position in bringing this case. They allege that this drug, despite the science, despite the FDA's 20-plus years of approval, that it is unsafe. And they are vowing to fight this. And perhaps, Kana, in light of their statement reacting to this, the Supreme Court will want to hear some of that in writing. That's a tea leaf here. Perhaps the Supreme Court will simply buy some time so that those groups can submit their view of things before making a final decision. We'll see.
All right, interesting. And Ann, to you, what is the reaction now from other leaders within this pharmaceutical industry, especially considering what it means for all of these existing doses out there of mifepristone? They could be potentially considered misbranded. They wouldn't meet these approval standards. And we know that some states have been stockpiling them.
Well, we've heard earlier this week from some 400 pharmaceutical companies and executives who said this whole lawsuit just throws everything into chaos because this is not how it's done. We know that the FDA is the one that oversees drug safety for Americans, and we trust that process. So earlier in the week, we talked to Dr. Ted Love. He was among those who signed a statement criticizing the court rulings on this. I think we have some sound from him. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
We have a process for evaluating the safety and effectiveness of drugs. It's really the best system in the world. It's worked for decades for us. And having the judicial system step in and override that is a major problem.
So that's Dr. Ted Love, who's known for his work on sickle cell research, saying this goes beyond abortion and that it really is concerning for many of these drug makers. They don't want to invest in a drug if it could necessarily become a political target and knocked down by a single judge.
Right, he's pointing to a potential slippery slope there. And this new abortion ban in Florida now. We've talked a little bit about what this does for the national debate. What do we know about this measure, and could it also face legal challenges?
So this will absolutely face legal challenges. This is a bill that Ron DeSantis signed in the middle of the night. It's about 11 o'clock last night without cameras there. And it's a 6-week ban on abortion. That's before most women know that they are pregnant. Now, Florida already has a 15-week ban on the books. That is tied up in court. We're waiting to hear from the state Supreme Court on that. So there's no doubt that the same people challenging that ban will challenge the 6-week ban. And really, the practical impact of all of this is that now the South has become almost solidly opposed to abortion rights. There's very few places that women can travel to get access to abortion. And all of this coming, of course, ahead of the 2024 elections.
Okay, Ann and Devin, our thanks to both of you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.